Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we're going over tomorrow night's Monday Night Football Showdown slate between the Dolphins and the Steelers. So we got a really exciting game right there. Not really. But anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single week, links in the description below for my Patreon as well as my Slack chat. Anyway, let's get into it because we got a lot of guys to talk about. So we're going to start up top with James Conner at 13,400. And so first off, I gotta say, this is an insane price tag, and I do believe he's the highest priced player we've had all season, even more than Mahomes was when he was on the Showdown slates. So Draftkings is not giving us a freebie here in James Conner. It's going to cost an arm and a leg. But man, oh man, is this an amazing matchup versus Miami. They're getting up 32.2 points per game to running backs this season, which is third most in the NFL. And they're also 32nd DVOA, which is dead last versus the run this season. And they're also dead last in defensive line adjusted line yards as well. So everything's lining up here for James Conner to have a pretty big game. And there's no reason at all he cannot eat in this matchup. I mean, it's his backfield. Jalen Samuels might be back, but they're going to work him back from injury. And Benny Snell's more of a handcuff, even though he was very heavily involved last time out. And he's also involved in the passing game, though. He has the second highest target share on this team, which may be hard to believe, but it's true at 17%. And also another thing here is I love my running backs when they are at home and if they're big home favorites. And once again, that is the case for James Conner. The Steelers are 14.5-point favorites at home, which is great correlation. And I know he's expensive, but it kind of feels like Dalvin Cook on Thursday, where if you don't have him, you are toast. Now, he's over 20,000 in the captain spot, which is absolutely insane. So I understand if you don't want to put him in there. But I do think it's very likely that he's the highest scoring player on this slate. So do I want to get him in the captain spot? Yeah, I do. I know it's very difficult to do so. So I understand if you don't want to put him in the captain spot and get someone else that's cheaper. But at the very least, he should be in your flex spot. And he's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate, and he should definitely be in your lineups. So yeah, obviously I like James Conner. Nothing bold there. Mason Rudolph comes in at 10,800, about 3,000 cheaper than James Conner. He's back from the injury, and he looks like it was just a concussion. So it's not like he was actually like injured. But he's another guy we should probably try to make a priority in our lineups. It's not like he's been great or anything, but this slate is void of a ton of like elite options, so we're gonna have to take what they give us. Miami is bad in all aspects on defense, and that goes for how they are versus quarterbacks too. They're 32nd DVOA versus the pass, which is dead last, and they're giving up 25.4 points per game, which is second most in the NFL to quarterbacks. Now it's not like Rudolph is some world beater and it's gonna set the world on fire. But the Steelers do have a 28-point team total, and it's Miami, so I can't imagine he doesn't get us like 2 touchdowns and at least 200 yards here. He's not over the moon expensive for a quarterback on a showdown slate, so I would say he's a priority for me. I would like to get Conner and Rudolph in my lineups. I know it's expensive, but I feel like you're going to need to do it. And he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been terrible either, 12, 15, 16. But now we get the Miami Dolphins, so I think he's going to be fine here. Mason Rudolph, I do like him. You could captain him and save some money off of James Conner, but I really do think this is going to be a run-heavy approach for the Steelers, so I do prefer James Conner, but also he's a lot more expensive, so I understand that as well. So Mason Rudolph, yeah, definitely like him. Juju Smith-Schuster, he comes in at 10,600, and he's a fun guy, but he's been pretty disappointing this season for fantasy, and obviously that has a lot to do with Big Ben being hurt, but still, you've been pretty disappointed with him. There's nothing like a matchup, though, versus Miami to get back on track, though if you do choose to play him. Dolphins have been middle of the road when it comes to points given up to receivers, but it's just how bad they are versus the run, because you can easily throw on these guys, and there's nothing at all to be scared of, especially in an individual matchup versus Xavier Howard, which I know sounds scary just from the name value, but he's not been good at all this season. In PFF, he's been one of the worst corners according to PFF this season. And I really wouldn't say Juju's a core play for me, even though I said all those good things about him, because I am prioritizing Rudolph and Conner. But he would be my third option, and if you're going to be more contrarian, he definitely has upside, so I don't mind him. But again, he's below Rudolph and James Conner on the important scale for me to get in my lineups. Because really, he's been hit or miss this season. I mean, he was okay, 13, 13, 17. It's not terrible. Then 4, 19, 1. I know the one was with Hodges, though, so we can give him a pass there. But I don't know. I just think Rudolph's a little bit safer, and I definitely think Conner's got a lot more upside. But Juju, he should be a little bit lower owned than Rudolph and Conner. So if you want to be a little bit more contrarian, I don't hate him. And Dolphins obviously offer no resistance to anything. So Juju, yeah, he's fine. Should be lower owned. And if he goes nuts, you're probably going to have some leverage on the field. Next guy is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. So we have a big drop off in price here. We got 13K, which then we have a big drop off to 10K, 10K, and then we go down to 8K. So we have Ryan Fitzpatrick at 8,400. And really, you never know what you're going to get with this guy. It's either going to be Fitzmagic or it's going to be Fitztragic. There's really no in between. He had a pretty good week for fantasy in a tough matchup versus Buffalo last week. We had 21 fantasy points, and that rushing touchdown on the goal line, and then the passing touchdown. And the dude's going to be gunning it away, taking shots down the field, and there is upside with that, but there's also downside too, but it's never fun to talk about the downside, so let's just keep talking about some other stuff. Steelers defense, though, it hasn't been too bad. They're only giving up 18.3 points per game to quarterbacks, which is top half in the league, which means it's not that great for Ryan Fitzpatrick. And they're also 10th DVOA versus the pass, so it's not like it's a cakewalk or anything. Still, he's cheap, and Miami's going to have to throw, but he's not someone I'm going out of way to fit in my lineups. It's not like I'm making him a priority or anything. If he fits, yeah, I don't mind it because I usually do like to get 2 quarterbacks in my showdown slate lineup. But things can go wrong for Fitzpatrick. I don't mind sprinkling him in here and hoping for the best. But there is plenty of downside here, though. The Steelers will bring the heat, and that could lead to some errant throws and turnovers, which Fitzmagic is well known for. But he also has those blow-up games too, so I think it's going to be hit or miss here. I'd probably lean on the side of him being miss more than hit, just because it's tough. He's on the Dolphins, and he can turn the ball over in bunches. But if you want to get a little bit different, I don't mind him. But again, not someone I'm going on my way to fit in my lineups because there's a ton of downside here and just a little bit of upside. And the Steelers defense, they are coming in at 8,000, and man, I think they were more expensive than the Patriots were in their showdown slates, which is obviously nuts. I mean, we almost need a touchdown here to be worth it, but I swear these defenses just keep balling out on showdown slates, so I understand taking stabs at it. They've been solid pretty much all season too. At 14 points, 11, 19, 11, 7, 0 versus New England, but everyone gets a pass versus New England. So honestly, they've been pretty solid, and now they're playing at home, and they're huge favorites versus the JV squad in Miami. I get it. I think they're fine, and I don't have anything against it. I just hate the idea of paying this much for a defense outside of the New England's defense. But we know Fitz can throw a ton of turnovers, so they may just be worth it. And obviously, I wouldn't want to fade them. I understand if they don't fit in your lineup very easily as an 8K defense, there's not a ton of upside there unless they score, but they definitely could versus Miami. They suck, so don't hate them. Just again, it's gonna be hard to fit them in your lineup if you're prioritizing Rudolph and Connor, because there's not really a ton of punt options on this slate. So. Probably more of a medium, like a mid-range option for me. And by that, I mean, like, not going on my way to fit them in. But I think they're fine. I mean, it's Miami, so they can definitely score versus them. And they're at home, big favorites. Could be a big defensive showing out of them. And then we have Deontay Johnson at 7,800. So you do get some savings off of Juju here. And he does get his quarterback back that he had success with for a short period of time. And he was seeing consistent targets, too, about 6 targets per game since Mason Rudolph took over. He has the second highest target share in the offense as a whole, at 17%, which is nothing huge, but it's not awful, and it is a pretty great matchup versus Miami, who will try to stop Juju the most. Notice I say try. I'm not sure they're going to be able to, but they're going to try. They're going to focus on Juju, so Johnson could get loose, see some softer coverage, and hit a big one. And if not, I think he'll be solid anyway. Won't kill you. Should get it probably about 5 to 6 targets, maybe 7. Hopefully get into the end zone. Wouldn't hate it. Again, not too excited about it. 7,800. But I think he's a mid-range option for me. Not someone I'm too excited about, but if they hit, they hit. And then Devontae Parker, he comes in at 7,200. So he actually hasn't been too bad this season for being a Miami Dolphin. I mean, 16, 11, 17, 8, 0, 10. Not the worst. It could be better. Could be worse, though. The offense, though, it's absolutely disgusting and is near dead last in pretty much every single category. But he does lead the team in his market share of air yards, so we do have that to work with. But still, I don't love it, especially if I'm going top-heavy with my approach. I'm not so sure how easy it's going to be to fit him in my lineups. But he does have big play upside. He's getting some air yards, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to flash that in this matchup against the Steelers, who's been pretty much above average in most categories, especially versus the pass. And we're going to need a big play at this price, which he's definitely capable of. It's just not something I really want to bank on. Steelers are going to bring the heat. We'll have to see how Fitzpatrick handles that. I'm not sure he's going to handle it too well. Again, could lead to a lot of turnovers. So Devontae Parker, not really too high on my radar, but he does have big play potential. Kenyon Drake did not travel with the team. He's going to be on a new team soon, and he can't play any of these quarterbacks. Vance McDonald, he's 6,400, which seems a little pricey for him, but they're all priced as they're playing Miami, which they are. And so he's kind of like a meh option for me. He did see 60% of the snaps, but he's never an exciting play. Miami has given up about 12 points per game to tight ends, which is middle of the road. But for Vance, I really don't think he does enough in the yardage or reception department to hit value, so you're going to really need a touchdown here, which is, it's definitely possible versus Miami. So he's a contrarian option for me, but he needs a touchdown. He's not going to put up big yardage numbers or reception numbers, so it's pretty much touchdown or bust, especially at this price for Vance McDonald. I just noticed how big his jaw is, and he's absolutely massive. Anyway, Preston Williams at 6,200. So I actually think I like him more than Devontae Parker, to be honest. With Parker, we are relying on some big plays, which I really have my doubts on happening, but it definitely could, but I have my doubts. But Preston does have a 22% target share, which is the highest on the team, and a 26% market share of the air yards, which is second highest on the team, only behind Devontae Parker. Now, he really hasn't been that bad this year, scoring double-digit points in all but 2 weeks. He does have a horrendous catch rate, though. I believe it's like around 50%, which is awful. But still, he should see more of the underneath stuff and short routage work, which I think may end up being more valuable in the PPR format that Draftkings is. And also, the Dolphins are going to have to throw the ball a ton, so volume should be there. And honestly, not too bad this season, 13, 5, 8, 10, 10, 11. Even at 10 versus New England, which is tough to do. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to be trailing. Preston Williams, I like him. I think he's a fine option at 6,200. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, so 6,200 is kind of a steep price to pay for him, but I don't hate him. We do have to play Dolphins, so we're going to have to figure out which Dolphin we want to play, and he's probably one of the top options for me for sure. Mark Walton at 6K. So it looks like he's going to be the starting running back here. Drake's on the move, so he's not obviously on the team anymore, and he did lead the team in carries last week with 14 and had 52% of the snaps. Still, I'm not so sure how happy I am going to be about playing him, especially at this price tag. The game script is awful for him, and there's a good chance that they get boat raced early, and they're going to have to lean towards a pass-heavy attack. Steelers have been middle of the road to running backs, allowing 24.1 points per game, and they are 15th DVOA versus the run. So, yeah, it's kind of middle of the road. Actually, it's like pretty much middle of the road. I'm going to have to pass on Walton, though, just for me, just based on expected game script. I really don't think it's going to work out for him. Maybe it does, but I just don't see it. He's going to have to get into the end zone. He's 6K. It's kind of a steep price to pay for him. So Mark Walton really not on my radar. Jalen Samuels, I guess he's questionable. I was not expecting that. He did practice this week, and he is ahead of schedule. Still, if he plays, I really don't see him being used too much because, coming off the injury, I assume they're going to have to take it light on him, and they're not going to really rush him out there, and they're going to kill the Dolphins more than likely, so I really don't see a reason to have to play Jalen Samuels big snaps. Benny Snell looked capable last week, so I really don't see him getting enough work. So I'm going to have to pass on Jalen Samuels, and he still might not even play. We don't know that yet. So then Chris Boswell at kicker at 4K. Yeah, I like Chris Boswell. I love him, actually. He's cheap. He's on the 28-point team total offense and at home. He's going to be popular, and I think he's a pretty solid option. And if the Steelers don't score a bunch of touchdowns, I think they're going to be scoring a bunch of field goals. So Chris Boswell, he's going to be expensive. He's not expensive. He's going to be popular, and I think you should probably play him in your lineups. It's just cheap exposure to the Steelers, which is hard to find. James Washington, though, he's also cheaper exposure to the Steelers, and really, he's just cheap, and that's really all I can say about him. I don't think the Steelers are going to throw a ton, which will hurt his chances to hit big with less opportunities, especially as a tertiary option on this offense. He hasn't done much this year, though, but it does get Mason Rudolph his quarterback back, and if he can get into the end zone or get a few catches for like 60-some yards, you probably won't be too upset at that. That price tag at 3,800 does seem cheap. Not a lot of upside here, though, but I think he can get you like 4 to 6 points. And if he gets into the end zone, obviously he's going to hit value pretty well. So don't mind him. Don't expect him to be too popular, but I think he's an okay play. Mike Gesicki at 3,600. He's kind of interesting, and this isn't bad. And this could be one of the Dolphins you use on your lineup, as we were forced to use one. And he's seen 11 targets the past 2 weeks, and the Dolphins are going to have to throw the ball a lot. And this is also a beatable matchup for him, as the Steelers are giving up 15.7 points per game to tight ends, which is third worst in the league. So Gesicki, I don't hate it. He has 8.1 points the past 2 weeks. He's only 3,600. Not too bad. I don't mind it at all. So if you have to use a Dolphin, and if you want to make him your Dolphin, I don't mind it. He's pretty cheap too. Lets us fit in our studs like Rudolph and James Conner. So don't mind Gesicki there. Sanders going to have to pass on Miami kicker. Dolphins defense definitely going to pass on Benny Snell. Yeah, I think he's okay. If Samuels is out, I don't mind it. He had 17 carries last week. Conner was banged up, though. Well, it was 2 weeks ago because of the bye week. But still, if they get to a big lead, which they definitely can, I don't hate the idea of using him as a flyer, kind of like I said with Alexander Madison, with Dalvin Cook. If they get to a huge lead, I think they're going to still run the ball. I mean, they're going to run the ball a lot, and they're probably not going to use their workhorse back, which they're counting on for the rest of the season. So maybe they take him out, and then the backup comes in. So same could be said for Benny Snell. Just worth a flyer. I wouldn't do it in your main lineup or anything unless you really want to get weird. Albert Wilson, he's at 2,000 even. He barely played, only about 20% of the snaps. He has upside though, and we know how fast he is, so he could, take a short route to the house or something. I don't know, get behind the defense. But the volume is very low, so you get what you pay for at 2K. He's a very risky option. Kalen Ballage at 1,600. He's got a fun nickname in the Bellagio, but that's really about it. But he should get an increased role with Drake gone, but nothing I'm too excited about. But he is cheap, and he may get a handful of touches or more. Maybe get a little bit of work in the passing game, so I don't hate it. And 6.7 the past 2 weeks. 1,600. It's not the worst play in the world, and he does offer you a lot of salary relief. So if you want to make him your Dolphin, yeah, not the worst play in the world. If he finds himself into the end zone, you're probably going to be pretty happy about that. So 1,600. Don't absolutely hate Kalen Ballage, but I don't love him either. Nick Vannett at 1,200. It's pretty much touchdown or bust for him. He's the less appealing version of Vance McDonald. And like I said, he definitely needs to find himself into the end zone to pay off here. He's not going to do anything in the yardage department or really the reception. So really you're just hoping for like a bootleg touchdown or the goal line for Nick Vannett. But he did play near identical snaps as what's his name? The other tight end. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But anyway, Vance McDonald. Yeah, I don't know what I was trying to think of. I was thinking of Will Dissly for something because of the Seattle connection, but I knew Will Dissly was not the correct answer. So anyway, Dante Moncrief. He's at 1,000. I hate Dante Moncrief. Don't like him at all. And that's really just about as far as I can go down this list. There's no one else that's really too interesting with me. Jakeem Grant barely played any snaps. What was it? 7 snaps on offense last time out. So you can't trust him, and that's really about it. You can't play any of these guys really. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If it was helpful, remember to leave a like. Well, I guess we can play around with something here. So let's just throw in James Conner in the captain spot. Then we're going to throw in Mason Rudolph. So we run out of salary quick. We have 4,700 left. So let's just put in Boswell the kicker. That's 5,000 left. Maybe we can use... I don't know. We can try the Steelers defense and see where that gets us 3,500 left. I'm not liking that. I'm not liking it. Maybe... That only leaves us 900. We can't do that. So maybe we can go with something like Kalen Ballage, 55. I don't know. I don't like that. We're going to have to play around with it. But anyway, I'm liking this. You can definitely fit this in. It just depends what punt you want to use. I'm not totally sure yet. I've not tried to make lineups yet. But really, that's probably the core I would start with. James Conner, Mason Rudolph, Chris Boswell. Maybe you can captain Chris Boswell. That could be an option too. And that'd probably make a more flexible a more balanced lineup, so we can get James Conner in, Mason Rudolph, maybe get the Steelers defense in. We got 5,900 left, and this is definitely possible. We could put in Preston Williams, and then we have 5,600 left, and no, I really don't like leaving that much on the table. Maybe we can try to get Ryan Fitzpatrick in. No, probably don't want to do that if I'm playing the Steelers defense. Maybe Deontay Johnson, run it back with someone that's 4K. Gesicki maybe, or Gesicki, or something like that. So don't hate it. Just playing around with it though. So I haven't tried to make lineups yet. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Remember to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPanel16. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I wish you guys the best of luck.